Hello everyone and welcome back to episode 161 of your favourite Formula 1 show. Yes, we're back and we can finally say it. It is race week for Formula 1 in 2024. Congratulations to everyone. We have survived the winter, and obviously after all of winter testing that went down last week, Jamie and I are back to make our final claims to the 2024 predictions. Now, first of all, Jamie, welcome.
Hello.
How are you doing, mate?
I'm good. Yes, thank you. That's all I've got to say.
Fair enough. Second of all, then, I forgot, have we ever had any kind of bet put in place for the predictions that we make? Or is it just for the weekly ones?
I think it's just the points for the weekly one. I'm more than happy to put something on the line. But yeah, it has to be different. From the tweet was definitely for the weekly predictions.
The tweet is for the weekly ones. I reckon then, do we say whoever loses...
We haven't spoken about this before. I'm very within my right to say no to
this. This is literally an idea that I'm coming out with on the bounce. Whoever loses this has to pay for the fuel when we do our road trip.
I'm not doing that.
I'll only be like 3 tanks. What are you worried about?
Yeah, with you driving as well in that BMW, it would be like crazy.
I'll be fine on the motorway. I get like 35 mpg.
Going 180 on the autobahn, love it.
I'll be alright. Be alright.
I'll think about it.
Someone let us know down in the comments below.
Yeah. If you've got a good forfeit, and I'm not shaking my head or anything dumb like that, because I'm a professional adult. So, I mean, I suppose I could just back myself to win, and it's not a gamble because I'm going to win.
Exactly.
Yeah. Let us know what you think we should put on the line.
Fair enough. That seems fair. But yeah, we need to get on with it though today, because we are doing our 2024 driver and teams predictions. Now, this is where we basically go through and we try and predict where every single driver is going to finish. And then at the end of the year, we basically, every position we were wrong by, you gain a point, and it's a bit like golf. The lowest points will win. So, easiest way to do this, Jamie, I assume, is going to be just last year's teams and then running down the order?
I believe so, yes. So, go through reverse championship.
Reversed? I was going to do normal.
Really? Bit of build-up? Who cares about P10?
Yeah, but the problem is, with a bit of build-up, then you know exactly where people are going towards the end.
You do.
Immediately, I'm going to suggest then that you might want to back yourself on the fuel. Because let's
worry
start
what
this
you've
thing.
done.
Let's start this thing then with Red Bull.
No.
Obviously, reigning world champions, Max Verstappen, Sergio Perez in the team. Where are you predicting them to finish this year?
Call me boring, shoot me down in the comments. P1 for Red Bull in the championship.
Yep.
P1 for Max Verstappen. P2 for Sergio Perez.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. Okay. We've gone differently.
I just think Perez had such a
one.
bad season last year and still finished second that if he's at all creditable, he will finish second again.
I mean, he scored less points in 2023 in the dominant Red Bull than he scored in 2022 in the slightly less dominant Red Bull. We've definitely gone different, though.
Oh, no. I'm worried what you come up with.
So I've said Red Bull, Constructors Champions. I think, we both think that's pretty sensible. The car looks strong in testing. Max still seemed to be completely in control. It said the confidence going in that he literally only did Wednesday and then didn't show up again for the rest of it. Or he did show up, but he didn't drive the car. Where I've gone slightly differently to you, though. So Max P1, Sergio Perez P11.
Nice. And you think there'll be a driver swap? Daniel
Ricciardo, I put in 7th place.
Nice. I was wondering if you'd back that theory that you've been coming up with since about mid-June.
I've been saying this since basically Daniel Ricciardo came back. I do not see a world in which Sergio Perez is in that car to the end of 2024. The team were already suggesting that he was 7/10 a lap slower than Max in winter testing. Maybe that gap will be reduced in the first few Grand Prix, and then I'm sure we'll rocket back up to wherever it was beforehand. And the impression I get is that, just simply put, Red Bull are desperate to put Danny Rick in that car. So I've said before, I've gone on the record, I'm going to stick with it. I reckon Daniel Ricciardo will be back in that Red Bull either for or before the Monaco Grand Prix.
And you think Perez will go to Racing Bulls, or you think he'll go to the bin?
I think he'll bin it off.
And he'll still be 11th by the end of the season, even if he does six races.
6 or 7 races. Yep.
Wow, you must be thinking the bottom 9 are trash.
Yep.
So if he's doing bad enough in the Red Bull, he's maybe on 50 points by then?
Yep.
I guess that probably would put him about 11th or 12th, wouldn't it?
Exactly.
Last year, fair enough.
I think both Alpines would have jumped him, but that was because they both had lucky podiums.
We're unanimous with Max winning the championship. I think this is probably the least risky championship prediction I can remember. Maybe one of the Hamilton 2020. You could probably.
We weren't doing the podcast then, were we?
No, exactly. It's definitely out the ones that we've done. The most easy championship prediction. I think. Yeah. Do you see the CEO of Formula E saying that you put you give $250,000 to charity if Max doesn't win the championship?
I did see that, and I mean, I love the way that was just meant to be quite a harmless bet, and £250,000 going to charity, and people somehow took that as an opportunity to slag off Formula E for whatever reason they have on their agenda.
Who knows?
Let's move on then. Team number 2, of course, they clutched up. Well, George Russell, didn't he, by himself last year?
Yeah.
Clutched up P2 for Mercedes. Hamilton and Russell. Obviously, Hamilton's last year with Mercedes. I'm sure he'll want it to be a banger. Where are we predicting, Jamie?
Before we go into this next section, before the pod, as we're making these predictions, I was like, in my head, I've got obviously Red Bull 1 and 2, fine, whatever. I genuinely think 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, even 9,
and 9
can be in the next. They could be in any order in my head.
Yep.
So we're kind of stabbing in the dark, but I've gone with kind of what we saw in pre-season testing, and I've put Mercedes in 3rd in the constructors.
Interesting.
And I have Hamilton P4 in the drivers, and I have Russell P7. So I just think it's going to be unbelievably tight from all those drivers from those teams.
Yep.
Yeah, I think Hamilton will have the edge. I really, really hope he wins a race, which I never thought I'd say 3 years ago. I really hope Hamilton wins a race.
I love hearing that coming out of your
it's just to get his poles and wins to match again.
It would be nice.
It's really frustrating. He's on 104 poles now because of Hungary.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we've definitely gone slightly different than on this one. I've said, now, obviously, the Mercedes didn't look particularly great on track. However, I'm clinging on to the idea that James Allison seemed quite happy with the car afterwards. So I've said Mercedes P2, I've said Hamilton P2, and I've put George Russell in P5. So I'm slightly more optimistic than you. I think Lewis, again, will be, best of the rest like he was last year. 2022 was absolutely a bit of a hangover season. And obviously, we spoke so much about obviously what he was doing behind the scenes with the car, everything like that. But I think this year Hamilton will be kind of playing no nonsense. I just want the best car I can have every weekend, and I'm doing this for me.
Yeah, and I think people will say we've probably treated Russell a bit harshly, but I think he'll have a good season. I guess people are saying last season was a bit poor from him, but I just think how tight those teams are. I think he'll more often than not end up on the fringes of the top 5 rather than on the fringes of the podium. Yeah,
and it kind of seemed, didn't it, that there were weekends where Sainz was better than Leclerc. There was weekends. I don't think there's really any other direct comparisons, is there, particularly? But there were weekends where George was as good as Lewis, but not really many where he was better at all, was there? Last year.
Yeah, and you can't, I guess, apart from Abu Dhabi right at the end, that was it really, wasn't it? And even then, it was a little bit too little too late by race 23 or whatever, 22, wasn't it, in the end?
Technically, yes, yeah, and I think obviously that was as well because Lewis had exactly nothing to fight for personally at the end of the year as well.
I saw he gave his, it might have been months ago, but I saw he gave his 3rd place gala trophy to a kid in...
Oh yeah, that was months ago.
In Azerbaijan, wasn't it? Or something like that.
Yes.
Which I quite rate. Someone's got Hamilton's 3rd place championship trophy.
I love the idea that a third place trophy is one of the worst years he's had in the sport.
And he cares so little, he just literally gives it away.
Exactly. You've
Imagine
proven yourself.
Hulkenberg is fuming.
Yeah, exactly. Next up then, obviously from 2023, was Ferrari. Of course, Carlos Sainz's last season with the team. I famously went on the record a few weeks ago in saying they could finish as low as P5.
Yes.
I'm happy
P6,
to say...
was it not? No,
it was P5. I wasn't putting it below Alpine.
Good.
I'm happy to confirm that my opinions have changed over the winter.
I wonder why.
Yep. So I have said...
The Hamilton hopium has made its way into Matt's veins.
It has. I've said Ferrari P3, Charles Leclerc P3, and Carlos Sainz in P6.
Interesting. I've done the exact same. No, I haven't.
Fair.
P2.
Yes, I was going to say.
For Ferrari. But, Leclerc P3, Sainz P6.
So you're saying Charles Leclerc best of the rest?
I am, behind the two Red Bulls. And I don't think Sainz will have a bad season, but again, a bit like Russell, it's just where it's going to end up. I think it'll be super tight. We saw at the end of last season, you had the four, both Ferrari drivers, Norris and Alonso, were all like level on points practically. So I think it'd be that kind of situation where one of them's got to end up 6th and 7th. So that's how it goes.
I think there's probably going to be a bit more from Ferrari this year. Of course, Sainz is out of a contract at the end of the year. You know, they know obviously he's not staying at the team. I think there's probably going to be, because I think throughout a lot of 2023 it was, we're not fighting for the World Championship. We'll kind of let them have at it a bit more on the track. I think 2024 is going to be the Charles Leclerc show. Kind of a bit more like 2022 where they go a lot more down the route of having a clear number one. And
they might as well, because it makes sense now long term, because Leclerc's staying and Sainz isn't. And I do think, based on pre-season testing, the race pace of the Ferrari looked more close to Red Bull than it was last year, certainly. So it wouldn't surprise me, I think certainly at Bahrain, obviously we've only tested at one track, that Ferrari should be the second fastest there, and it remains to be seen if that translates to other circuits.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
But then they were second fastest there last year, I would say, because Leclerc was going to finish third easily.
Oh yeah, people forget about that when they go on about Alonso's streak at the start of last year. Charles Leclerc was instantly going to ruin that in Bahrain. Next up then, Jamie, we are flying through these. Last year, of course, was McLaren, the resurgence of McLaren. Where have you put Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri?
I've put McLaren P4 in the championship. I think that's not where they finished last year, was it? Oh, no, it was in the end. Yeah.
Yeah. They smashed Aston by the end of the year.
Yeah. Aston almost came back at them, didn't they, with Brazil?
They had Lance Stroll.
Yeah. I've put Norris P5, and I've put Piastri down in P9, which I felt bad about, but I kind of had to. So, yeah, how about you? I
have gone Norris P4, Piastri P9, which again I felt bad about as well.
Who else do you put ahead of Piastri? Who I haven't? Because Perez is below. Oh, Ricardo? Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, I think Norris would be the stronger of the two. I think if I was going to guess one winner outside the Red Bulls, I think it would be Norris this year. This has got to be the time.
Is that your statement, is it? Norris is finally going to get a Formula 1 win?
I hope that we see Norris, Hamilton and Leclerc win races, but given how dead F1 was last year, we don't really know what it's going to look like.
It'd be nice to see one of them win a Grand Prix.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think out of those three, Norris is probably the most likely, even though I've put him down in 5th. I just think McLaren's good tracks, they were right with Red Bull. You think like Japan, Norris was go almost toe-to-toe. I feel like Verstappen maybe had him at arm's length, but yeah, I would like to think Red Bull will be right there with them. And Bahrain is always a weak track for McLaren. So, yeah, it may be that we think they're worse than they are because they test at Bahrain. And this time last year they rocked up and finished 17th in DNF. So, yeah, we'll see. I do think Norris will have the edge on Piastri, but I think Piastri will make an improvement than he would last year.
Yeah, I think Piastri might have kind of one of those tough second years in the sport where just a lot of things don't go your way over the course of the year. And it's kind of, had this safety car not come out, he'd lost 6 points here, this incident, had someone not gone into the side
in Mercedes, wasn't it?
In 2018. Exactly.
Where he could have had about 6 wins if he had luck, but he got 0.
Yeah, exactly. Which would be a shame for Oscar Piastri, but I think it'll be the way he bounces back from it. I think the other big question, of course, surely with McLaren, and it's something we've spoken about year on, well, 2022, not so much in 2022 actually, but 2023 definitely, and in other years gone by. Are we going to see them actually start the year with good pace?
Yeah, I mean, I hope so, because it has felt like for a long time now they just turn up to Bahrain and they're terrible, and then they'll mid-season they'll suddenly become a bit more serious again. Like 2022, Norris's podium at Imola was ridiculously lucky. They were much slower than Alpine at the beginning, like the first half of the season, and then they put an upgrade on and suddenly they were easily best of the rest. So obviously it was less noticeable back then because we didn't really care about who's finishing 7th every week, but 2023 was a prime example. There was a crazy step forward they made. So hopefully they'll be start the season well, and if they put that upgrade on in Austria, then suddenly they're getting poles and wins.
We can only hope. We can only hope. It would be nice to see McLaren back on top again. Although it does always feel weird just having that one Ricciardo win in the middle of it all.
As well as an old Piastri sprint win. Don't forget that.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, we can't forget the Piastri sprint win. Aston Martin and Jamie, P5, of course, had a really, really strong start to 2023, and then kind of fell apart, and then had a small resurgence at the end of the year. But it was certainly too little, too late, wasn't it?
Yes. I've been incredibly boring. Put the P5 like where they were.
Yeah,
and
same.
Alonso 8th, Stroll 10th. So
exactly the same.
Yeah. I think they'll find themselves more often than not in a bit of no man's land between the front 4 and the rest.
Yeah.
And I think Alonso will get involved a bit with the top 8, hence finishing ahead of Piastri and probably not that far off Russell for me. But yeah, I think the Aston will let them down at a lot of the circuits. Bahrain was one of their stronger circuits last year. Obviously, Alonso got 3rd, and I think Stroll was 6th or 7th. And this season in testing, they didn't look that good at Bahrain, so it kind of worries me, like what they're going to look like at the other circuits, where they actually weren't as good last year.
Yeah.
So
I think, again, we'll probably see a little bit of Alonso magic, but I am also going to go out, maybe controversial, maybe not, in saying this will be his last year in the sport. I think I can see
a contract for the year after.
I thought he was on a 2-year contract with the option to extend a 3rd. You could be right. But I think this will be the year where, kind of the hype from going to Aston Martin falls off, and, the team just becomes a bit of a midfielder. Honda maybe are starting to knock on the door a bit, with trying to get Yuki over there for the future, and Alonso kind of goes, yeah, I've had enough again now. I'm happy with what I've done. So yeah, I think Alonso will have a lot more points than Stroll, and I believe it'll probably be that Alonso will be picking up 9ths and 10ths quite regularly, and Stroll will be beefing it out with the Alpines as they all try and make sure
I kind of think
by the end of the year.
I kind of think Alonso will be on the podium a couple of times still.
Oh yeah, I think he will. But he gets like 100 points this year rather than 200.
For me, the top 9 will be all on the podium at some point in a Grand Prix.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
And maybe
Although
Stroll
our top 9s are slightly different. No, the fact Lance Stroll didn't get a podium in that Aston Martin last year, I still find hilarious.
Well, his old trick used to be getting podiums in outrageously bad cars.
Oh, exactly. Well, outrageously bad is Stroll.
Now he's got an okay car. It's like, how is he not getting a podium anymore? I don't know.
Yeah. When has he ever had an outrageously bad car?
The 2017 Williams had no business being on the podium.
Around that track it did. It was still decent in 2017, remember?
It was decent, but it wasn't like it wasn't the best of the rest after the top 3.
But Daniel Ricciardo won that Grand Prix in a Red Bull that wasn't that great round there.
No, it's true.
It was more the fact that Mercedes and Ferrari threw it away.
I suppose Stroll's only ever had one podium apart from in that ridiculous Racing Point, so maybe I'm wrong, giving him way too much credit.
I think you are, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think you are.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I think, again, though, Stroll, it's just kind of, how long is he going to continue stinking up Aston Martin?
Also, side point, I don't know if you've watched Drive to Survive yet.
I've watched some of it.
I've watched the first episode. Why on earth would they pick the most dislikable pair to focus the entire first episode on? I didn't get it at all. When the tennis one happened, they put the first episode focusing on the character that everyone wants to see, which is Nick Kyrgios in tennis. They put the first episode focus on Lance and Lawrence Stroll. That is not going to grab viewers' attention to make them want to keep watching. It put me off massively. I will carry on watching it.
Yeah, I think it was just more because obviously it was dramatic at the start of the year, and obviously Alonso podium.
I guess, but but they didn't even focus on Alonso that heavily. It was mostly on the Stroll duo, and I was like, I could skip this and I wouldn't care. But I will. I'm looking forward to when I actually get to see some drivers that I like.
I mean, I'm going to give you. I'm going to give you a bit of a spoiler, Jamie, because I've watched more than half of it. They miss... I mean, it's Drive to Survive, isn't it? They miss out quite a lot of the important stuff from across the year. But Alpine gets 2 fully dedicated episodes.
Right, okay.
So
I'm glad about
kind
that.
of... I genuinely don't believe Alfa Romeo was mentioned once.
Yeah, I was wondering. I haven't seen much promo of Alfa Romeo at all. They never really are involved, are they? But
they had a bit last... Oh, sorry, 2022.
Yeah.
A bit more. But yeah, no, just nothing at all apparently. But I mean, yeah, if you're waiting for our review on Drive to Survive like every year, yeah, watch it if you want. But I wouldn't lose sleep over missing it.
I'm one episode in, and it's been out for 4 days now, so I'm clearly not in that much of a hurry to watch it.
No, exactly. Next up, then, Jamie, is probably Formula One's most boring team. And the team that, well, as we just mentioned, got 2 episodes in Drive to Survive.
And 3 podiums.
And 3... Was it 3 podiums last year?
A sprint podium counts.
Oh, right, okay.
In Spa. Well done, Gasly.
I remember. I was there, actually. Alpine, people are saying that they might suddenly be falling off towards the back of the field. Where have you predicted them?
I've kind of bought into that a little bit.
You bought in onto the hopium of the Alpine downfall.
Yeah, it'd just be funny, wouldn't it, to see them fall apart again. I've gone Alpine 7th, so not that much of a fall, just 1 place. And I've put Gasly P13, Ocon P15. Okay. So not that bad. It's worse than last year. We've seen in the like Twitter sphere that everything's falling apart and all the people are leaving again. But it's like another day in Alpine, really, isn't it? At this point. Yeah,
pretty much. The 100 race cycle will reset again, won't it? Very soon. I've said. So Alpine, I kept him in 6th. To be fair, I haven't bought into the idea that they're dead yet. I do also believe, absolutely, if they start struggling at the start of the year, the FIA will absolutely let them run a bit more power, so they don't leave. Because I can
they
see
kind of need
a world,
that engine supply, don't they?
Well, I can see a world very soon in which Alpine are having an absolute disaster. Go, yeah, we're quitting at the end of the year, and all this talk about how Formula One is happy with 10 teams is suddenly out the window. As well.
Might get Andretti away in, I suppose.
Well, you'd hope so. I mean, Andretti shouldn't need a weigh-in anyway. They should just be allowed in, but there we are. But yeah, I've said Alpine very boring. I put in P6, and I've gone 12th and 13th place. Gasly beating out Ocon again.
Good. I think it's a bit of a toss-up between those two, really, because I do think they're very closely matched, and they will be hampered by French DNFs quite a lot, as we saw last year. So it's a 50-50, but I've put Gasly because I like him more, simply.
And so have I.
So yeah, I mean, I'd be surprised if they're troubling the podium this season at all. But I'd like to see it. A little Gasly appearance on the podium would be nice.
I can see Alpine basically are kind of going to fit into that role that they did a lot last year as well, where points aren't out of the question on a lot of weekends, but it's kind of just we'll take some points off Aston Martin. You know, it'll be that we beat Stroll.
Taking advantage of DNFs, yeah.
Exactly, or it'll be a couple of people up the road have a bit of a collision or something like that, and Alpine will kind of just fraud away. Like, they might get like a P6 or P7 here or there, but it's a lot of 8s, 9s, and 10s that they're scoring kind of semi-regularly as well. Over the
they only
course
actually
of the
had 6 races to not score points last year, which is quite good.
Yeah.
6 out of 22. Again, they didn't score any points.
Aston Martin as well fell off quite badly. He was kind of, as McLaren got better, Aston Martin got worse. So it kind of just allowed Alpine to still snooker away.
Doing what they're doing. Yeah.
Wherever they could. Last year, then, next up, of course, was Williams.
It was.
With a fantastic resurgence to P7.
Well, Alex Albon, not just Williams.
Alex Albon getting P7 for the team. Double the points of any of the other backmarkers. Where have you predicted them in 2024?
I have gone 8th in the championship, so down
Okay.
one place where they were last year. I've gone Albon in 14th place and Logan Sargent in 19th place, and it'll be his last year, almost certainly for me.
Interesting.
I think Albon will get practically all the points on his own again at tracks like Canada and Australia and Monza and places where you need no drag. And I think those points that he gets there will see them comfortably clear of the bottom two. And Sargent will still be, qualifying last every week. Yeah, that's about it. I see quite similar. I do think they'll hopefully make some sort of step forward. But then I forgot how bad they were in 2022. They were barely scoring points. And then suddenly Albon is, troubling the midfield quite a bit. It's actually, they made quite good progress last year. So if they can maintain that at the minimum, that'd probably be okay.
Well, I think as well, you've got to kind of remember, of course, with the limit of rule changes, all the teams are going to converge on each other, aren't they?
Yeah.
Very similar to you, though. I've said Williams in P8. I have said Albon, I believe, in P... What did you say, 14?
I said 14, yep.
Yeah, I've gone with 15th, and because obviously I've got Daniel
Ricciardo being boosted.
I've got Logan Sargent in 21st.
Wait, what? Where's Liam Lawson kicking around in it?
Hey, well, you'll find out. Okay,
so. Fair enough. I mean, I like it. Yeah, we'll get on to them next, actually, won't we?
AlphaTauri. No, he's not going to AlphaTauri. I'm predicting some Arab-style driving
No, you're
moves
not. Come
where
on.
Zhou Guan Yu goes to
That's not going to happen. Surely you'll have me.
Hulkenberg joins the Red Bull Junior team and gets
At
one
37.
weekend in the Red Bull.
And it happens to be the weekend where Red Bull aren't the fastest, so he finishes
Oh, it's
fourth.
Singapore. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. No, let's go down to AlphaTauri then. I
Racing
hate
Bulls.
as well
Visa Cash
Racing Bulls, whatever we're calling them this year. Why Christian Horner calling them AlphaTauri annoys me so much in Drive to Survive, man. I know, yes, you're a Tory, but it's AlphaTauri.
In Italian, it is AlphaTauri, isn't it? I'm trying to
Yeah.
think what they would say. I guess so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where have you put them?
I have said AlphaTauri P7.
And what about their three drivers?
So obviously Ricciardo I've already put 7th.
Great.
But of course most of those points aren't in an AlphaTauri. I've said Yuki Tsunoda 14th, and I've said Liam Lawson in 17th.
Okay, this is going to get very confusing.
I have made it slightly confusing, and I
Yeah.
apologise.
I mean,
So-
you're doing the editing, so I don't mind. That's fine.
No, my kind of thought process is that AlphaTauri will have a... I think they're going to be kind of beefing it with Alpine a bit more this year, but still be slightly further back. My logic is, of course, that Ricciardo would have scored a few points, probably be slightly ahead of Tsunoda early on, but of course will go to Red Bull and score way more by the end of the year. Tsunoda, again, will have quite a consistent season, and Lawson will basically match him, but of course be 7 races behind in terms of points available. So
Yeah. I can certainly see that happening. I don't know. I think if Perez is doing a fine job, I struggle to see them replacing him. So I guess you're gambling on
my
his
logic
Perez.
is that he's not.
Yeah. I think that'll probably happen for me at the end of the season, or maybe they finally bite the bullet and get Lando Norris into that Red Bull, but we'll see. Yeah, for me, I think Racing Bulls will be slightly better than what we expect because they are running last year's Red Bull. So I've put them in 6th ahead of Alpine in the championship. I have got Ricciardo in 11th and Tsunoda in 12th. So I kind of think they'll make the step out of the mire of the back market teams.
You kind of think they're going to be where I've put Alpine this year.
Yeah. So they'll be kind of quite comfortably not out in Q1 every week, but rarely getting both cars in Q3, that kind of thing. It's troubling Stroll probably quite often, but ahead of both Alpines.
Stroll.
Yeah. And I think they'll both. Tsunoda, I think, is slightly worse than Ricciardo. I just think Ricciardo's overtaking ability in the midfield will sort him out because it does help a lot being able to pass people, as Zhou Guanyu has found out. Taking risks sometimes actually helps.
Or starting the car in Hungary.
Yeah, or not being in neutral when the lights go out helps as well. Yeah, I think Ricciardo will slightly have the edge on Tsunoda, and maybe it opens the way to Red Bull. We'll see.
We will. Or if you're saying it's already going to happen.
It's already going to happen. It's nailed in.
It's confirmed. I mean, I'm potentially risking quite a lot of points here because I don't quite know how many points Lawson will score if he never races, and I would like 16.
Yeah, Perez finishing 11th if he drives a Red Bull all season would be quite something.
I'll be slightly alarmed, but we're here to take big risks on occasion. We're down to just 2 teams left then, Jamie. Alfa Romeo and Haas then. Obviously, it's Alfa Romeo, pretty much, the Ferrari B teams, if you will, that are basically just been abandoned. Obviously, Alfa Romeo beat out Haas last year. Where are we saying Bottas and Zhou then? Of course, you've got a kind of an eye on both these teams, haven't you? Because you got a driver that you love in either, so I'm expecting some hopium.
You'd be right. I have put the 9th and 10th because that's all that's left. I'm not that much deluded. I'm not putting Alfa Romeo 6th and getting lucky with it like I did 2 years ago. I have Stake, Sauber, whatever they're called, ahead of Haas. I put Stake in 9th.
Okay.
I have fully gone on the radar, on the record, in fact.
No.
And said, and said that Zhou will beat Bottas. For no reason other than I want it to happen. So,
You're delusional.
I don't think it will happen, but I think there'll be so few points kicking around on these teams that if Zhou gets lucky and the script is in his favour and he got, maybe he gets a P10 at China because the FIA want it to happen, then it's done and Bottas will barely score anything.
So basically, your logic this year is I want it to happen, and I believe the Chinese Communist Party will demand it of the FIA.
Basically. I don't know how it will happen, but I don't think Zhou and Bottas, that either of them is going to set the world alight. So if one of them could snag a few points, that'll probably settle the score, really.
Fair enough. I have said, again, like you, I've said Alfa Romeo P9. However, I've put Zhou Guanyu in 20th.
Of course,
It's not like I dislike Zhou at all. He is actually one of the drivers that we both quite like on the grid. Mine is purely because I've met him and he knows who I am.
Have you? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's on my Instagram. You knew this.
When you worked for Alfa Romeo for a bit.
Exactly.
Yes. I didn't know that.
However, sadly, I'm also going to say that Zhou is not going to score a point this year. And that's going to be him out. It's genuinely depressing for me as well when I've said this.
I don't think either of them will be at that team next year.
I think he's going to be he's going to basically do a slightly better job than Esteban Gutierrez did in his 1 year with Haas, where there's quite a few 11ths, but nothing comes through of points.
That would be very, very sad.
And I believe Bottas will squeeze a few away here and there. He'll kind of take his chances where he can.
They'll get to Qatar and score a 3-4 or something like that again.
A 3-4? I don't quite think that's what happened last year, but I love the hope.
Close enough.
Fair enough. But yeah, so I've said Bottas will score a few points, and I put him in 16th place, I believe.
Okay, I think this is all just mud, to be honest. But for me, I've kind of got Albon troubling everyone else, and then the bottom 5 will be scrambling for whatever they can find.
The scraps, basically, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
Well, that just leaves
moving
us
on
with Haas, then.
To MoneyGram Haas Formula 1 team. They're in the mud, aren't they? They're ruined. It's so sad.
We've basically got a 2021 2.0, despite the fact last year ended up being a 2021 2.0.
But they actually have got some creditable drivers now, which hopefully will make them not as embarrassing. I have put them last in the constructors, obviously. I have Hulkenberg beating Sargent just because, again, I want it to happen.
Same.
And I have Magnussen last, and it'll be his last year in the sport as well.
Interesting.
Yeah, I like to think that in my championship, Hulk and upwards can score some points. I don't care if Sargent and Magnussen score points, to be honest. In fact, it'd be funny if they didn't again. I've just not got any hope for Haas. I think the fact they didn't even bother doing any time, they would literally just focus on tyre wear testing rather than doing performance testing, kind of says it all.
Well, I think that's also because they spent all of last year destroying tyres for fun,
they did.
Wasn't it?
They were Pirelli's worst enemies, weren't they? But
or their best friend, because they kept having to buy more tyres.
Yeah, exactly. Pirelli staying in business purely through the Haas F1 team. How about... I mean, you must have put them last as well.
I've also put them last. I've gone Hulkenberg 18th, Magnussen 19th. I am happy to suggest that Magnussen will score exactly 1 point in 2024, and Hulkenberg will score at most 5.
I mean, Hulkenberg is on a run of, when would it be back to? 20. Basically, the last 6 Australian Grand Prix that Hulk has raced in, he's got P7 5 times, including last year. So
shame it's not going to happen this year.
P7 at Melbourne, get it locked in.
Okay. I dare you to put a bet on
everyone's
that.
everyone's going to crash again, and Hulkenberg
Okay.
deserved the podium that time. But
He did. Even I've said that. He deserved that podium. That was pure daylight robbery by F1. Yeah, I think Hulkenberg will be kept on 1 extra year, but I think you're right. It's going to be Magnussen's last, simply for the fact that Ollie Behrman is basically showing up at Haas every race next year.
Yeah.
So it's pretty clear that Ferrari are pushing him into that drive, and I think Hulkenberg will just be there for an extra year or 2 for stability before Ferrari's next Wunderkind comes in.
Hulk and Behrman will cook, by the way, in 2025.
Behrman will rinse him.
No.
I was thinking, though, Haas have exactly 0 development drivers, do they? Apart
Do they
from
not technically have
Fittipaldi.
Pietro Fittipaldi still?
Yeah, I guess they got the Fittipaldis, but that is basically it.
Yeah, you wonder what on earth they're doing, really, don't you?
They're just such an unserious team.
Chloe Chambers, who's an American racing in the F1 Academy.
Yeah, but they have to.
Do they?
They have to have an F1 Academy driver.
Yeah, they do, don't they?
So that's basically it.
Yeah. Yeah, she got a
Unserious
point
team.
in 2022 in W Series. So
Woo!
yeah, we'll see.
I mean,
Haas,
F1 Academy this year is F1 Academy this year is going to be hilarious because it will just be the Dorian Pin show. She is going to destroy everyone.
I swear, Marta Garcia's quite good, isn't she?
Marta Garcia, won last year, but Dorian Pin is
Did she race
genuinely
last
different
year?
gravy. No, she was World Endurance, and
And
I
Jamie
think she
Chadwick
did
can't
some-
race in this anymore.
Can she?
Well, she isn't.
She's not. I don't think it's that she can. I don't think it's that she just didn't want to anymore.
I guess. Yeah.
But yeah, we'll
see.
be interesting to see as well. But there we go then. I think those are all our predictions locked in. I think mine
Should we
are.
go through them again, or at least the top,
run
top
through
10
run
maybe?
through your order for me.
Okay, championship constructors. I have Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes, McLaren, Aston Martin, Visa Cash App Racing Bulls, Alpine, Williams, Stake Sauber Kick Formula 1 team, and Haas.
So basically, we have got everyone in the same place except for Ferrari and Mercedes switched, and Alpine and VCarb switched.
Yes.
Wonderful.
We are very boring.
And your Formula 1 Drivers' Championship standings at the end of 2024, Jamie, will read as such.
For me, okay.
Yep.
Max Emiliano Verstappen, Sergio Perez, Charles Leclerc, Lewis Hamilton, Lando Norris, Carlos Sainz Jr., George Russell, Fernando Alonso, Oscar Piastri, Lance Stroll, Daniel Ricciardo, Yuki Tsunoda, Pierre Gasly, Alex Albon, Esteban Ocon, Zhou Guanyu, Valtteri Bottas, Nico Hülkenberg, Logan Sargent, and Kevin Magnussen.
So I believe then we have got 5 drivers in the same places.
And you're going to go for
At the end
your
of the
drivers as well, because that's too confusing to mention the swaps.
Exactly. Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton, Charles Leclerc, Lando Norris, George Russell, Carlos Sainz, Daniel Ricciardo, Fernando Alonso, Oscar Piastri, Lance Stroll, Perez, Gasly, Ocon, Tsunoda, Albon, Bottas, Lawson, Hülkenberg, Magnussen, Zhou, and Logan Sargent in P21.
Oh yeah, I forgot that you didn't have... I thought you put Joe last when you said P20, but I forgot you had 21
you forgot
drivers.
about Logan, yeah. No, I think Zhou's going to have like 4 P11s this year, and Sargent is just going to be nowhere near the points. Is
Lovely.
my prediction.
I'm glad you didn't put him last. That
No, I
confused me a
didn't.
little
I
bit.
didn't, to be fair. But yeah, let us know your predictions down in the comments below. I'm very, very excited to hear them all. Maybe
I'm
we'll
excited
react to them as well.
to laugh at ourselves in November or December,
this
isn't
is
it?
going to
this
come back to bite me. Yeah, this is going to come back to bite me.
year?
But
Yeah.
I love it.
When you've got an automatic
love
plus 9 from Perez.
Yeah, what am I going to do about Lawson? I get plus infinity.
Yeah. You never know. Ricardo might
suppose
break his
actually-
wrist again.
I suppose actually it would be classified as 21st. Technically, we came like 23rd last year in Formula 1.
We did,
I'm going to
did
claim.
we?
Yeah.
Everyone in
yeah.
the world was P22.
Everyone became 23rd in the world. Was
Great.
it 23? How many drivers did last year? Was it 22? Was it 21?
There was 22 because you had 4 in the Toro Rosso, and that was it.
Yeah. So there we go. We all came 23rd, which is wonderful. Thank you all so much as always though for listening. If you have enjoyed, please do make sure you drop a follow. We're getting closer and closer to 500 at the moment. And yeah, we'll be back later on this week then. Yep, the double uploads are returning because we'll be back with a Bahrain Grand Prix preview.